What is up, everyone? It is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. And as the end of 2022 quickly approaches, we are doing a reading wrap up for the entire year. I'm going to be talking through the 72 books that I read this year and then giving you some of my favorites and recommendations from this past reading year. So first, I'm going to go through every single book that I read and give basically a one-sentence summary of what the book is. So literally, let's just jump right into it. Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren is a friends to lovers romance. Little Secrets by Jennifer Hillier, a woman's son gets kidnapped and then a year later she hires a PI to help find her son and discovers that her husband is having an affair. The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. A group of final girls are in a support group. Someone knows about the group and is tracking down these women. It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. A woman gets into a new relationship that involves an abusive partner, and she also runs into her childhood love again. Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. The world is ending, so a crew gets sent into space to try to save our species. One of Us Is Next by Karen M. McManus. It's a sequel to One of Us Is Lying. This is a mystery thriller where a group of high school kids get truth or dare texts. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. It is a trilogy. This first book, 5 years ago, a student was murdered and a classmate was arrested. But is this the truth? Another student starts a class project about the murder because she believes the true killer is still out there. Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson is the second book in this series. The main character starts a true crime podcast and someone else that she knows goes missing, so she decides to help since the police won't do anything. As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson is the third book in the trilogy. The main character starts to receive death threats that start to escalate. The police don't do anything, so she goes searching for the person herself. The Language of Fanaticism, Cultish by Amanda Montell, goes into the verbal elements that make a wide spectrum of communities cultish, how they attract followers to these groups. The Hating Game by Sally Thorne is an enemies to lovers romance in the coworker setting. The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. It is a Greek love story involving war, drama, sacrifice. Into the Wild by John Krakauer is based off of a true story about the life and death of Christopher McCandless. My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moshfegh. A woman needs a break from life, so she locks herself away for a year. Verity by Colleen Hoover is a thriller novel where a writer accepts a job to write the remaining books for a man's injured wife, where the writer finds the wife's bone-chilling memoir. Beach Read by Emily Henry is a love story between two writers who strike a deal to write in the other's genre to help to get them out of their writing slump. The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. A husband goes missing and the wife must uncover the mystery and protect his daughter. The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid is about Evelyn's life of ambition, friendship, and forbidden love, and also her 7 husbands. It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. A rich girl gets sent away to learn about responsibility and she falls in love. Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid is about the rise and fall of an iconic 1970s rock group. The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood is a PhD student and young professor love story. Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata is a story of a woman working in a convenience store where she is happy, but people around her keep pressuring her to find a husband and start a proper career. Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. A woman gets out of prison and hopes to reunite with her 5-year-old daughter, but the events that happened 5 years ago prevent this. Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. A failed bank robber bursts in and takes everyone in an apartment, showing hostage. Invisible Women, Data Bias in a World Designed for Men by Caroline Criado Perez. How, in a world largely built for and by men, we are systematically ignoring half of the population. It exposes the gender data gap and how invisible bias affects women's lives. Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. A man is traveling through the multiverse to try to get back to his family. Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. 4 famous siblings throw an epic party to celebrate the end of summer. Over the course of 24 hours, their lives change. Survive the Night by Riley Sager. A girl accepts a ride from a stranger to go back home, and she thinks he is a killer. Laziness Does Not Exist by Devin Price. It discusses the laziness lie, which falsely tells us we are not working or learning hard enough. In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. A college reunion turns dark and deadly when 6 friends, one unsolved murder, and the dark secrets they've been hiding for a decade. The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. A wedding party gets food poisoning, so enemies go on the honeymoon together and fall in love. Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. It is a memoir about growing up Korean American, losing her mother, and forging her own identity. The Perfect Child by Lucinda Berry. A young couple who wants to have their own child but bring in an abandoned 6-year-old, which turns deadly. The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley is an apartment building murder mystery. One Italian Summer by Rebecca Searle. A woman's mother dies, so she goes on their planned mother-daughter trip alone to connect and grieve. Hostage by Claire McIntosh is a thriller where people try to take over a plane and they need to make life-changing decisions. The First Day of Spring by Nancy Tucker. The main character killed a boy when she was 8 years old. 20 years later, she is a single mother that wants to give her daughter the childhood she was denied. How to Not Die Alone by Logan Ury is a guide to help you find, build, and keep a relationship. The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. A woman runs a true crime website where she asks a woman who was acquitted of 2 murders to do an interview. All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven is a love story about a girl who learns to live from a boy who intends to die. Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. Friends with Benefits but one person wants more. Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. A married couple wins a vacation, but they didn't randomly win this trip. One of them is lying and someone doesn't want them to live happily ever after. Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. A woman returns to the house made famous by her father's best-selling horror memoir. Is the place really haunted by evil forces, as her father claimed? Between Two Kingdoms by Suleika Jawad is a memoir of illness and recovery that traces one woman's journey from diagnosis to remission to a road trip of healing and self-discovery. My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell explores the psychological dynamics of the relationship between a teenage girl and her magnetic and manipulative teacher. The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han is a summer love story between a girl and 2 brothers. The Deeper the Water, the Uglier the Fish by Katya Apakina. 2 teen girls sent to live with their estranged father. These 2 sisters crave the attention of a parent they can't and should not have. Still Missing Missing by Chevy Stevens. A woman is abducted and held captive for a year, and she tries to put her life back together after her escape. You've Reached Sam by Dustin Tao is where a high school boyfriend dies and the girlfriend continues to communicate him via the cell phone. False Witness by Karen Slaughter. It is no coincidence this person chooses the main character as his lawyer. If she can't get him acquitted, she'll lose a lot. Good Neighbors by Sarah Langan. Sudden tragedy exposes the depths of deception and damage in a suburb, pitting neighbor against neighbor and putting one family in danger. The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose. Would you defend your husband if he was accused of killing his mistress? Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn. A reporter must return to her tiny hometown to cover the unsolved murder of a preteen girl and the disappearance of another. Dark Roads by Chevy Stevens. Young women traveling this road have gone missing and no killer has yet been brought to justice. The Last Widow by Karen Slaughter. A woman gets kidnapped and her husband goes undercover to try to save her. Never Lets You Go by Chevy Stevens. A mother left an abusive relationship with her husband 11 years ago. Now he is out of jail and weird stuff starts to happen with her and her daughter. The Island by Adrian McKinty is about a family vacation to Australia where the family goes and gets trapped on an island by the people living there. The Butterfly Garden by Dot Hutchison. A man kidnaps young women and keeps them in his, quote, garden. The Wolf, A True Story of Survival and Obsession in the West by Nate Blakesley, is a story about a wolf and her pack and the clash in the West regarding wolves. Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. A woman is an apartment sitter where a fellow apartment sitter disappears and she tries to solve the mystery. I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid explores depths of human psyche, questioning consciousness, free will, value of relationships, fear, and limitations of solitude. The Room by Emma Donahue is about a mother and son who are locked in a room by their captor and they try to escape. The Stranger in the Mirror by Liv Constantine is about a woman who doesn't remember who she is and she is about to get married, where her old husband is still out there looking for her. I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy is a memoir about her struggles as a former child actor. A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham is where the main character's dad is arrested as a serial killer. 20 years later, a local girl goes missing. Are there parallels here? The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager is about a woman watching a couple across the lake where one of the couples suddenly vanishes. Born a Crime by Trevor Noah is a memoir about growing up half black, half white in South Africa under and after apartheid. It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover is a sequel where the woman and her abusive husband divorced, she reconnects with her childhood love. Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead by Emily Austin. A woman who is atheist and lesbian accidentally gets a job at her Catholic church. She can't stop ruminating about death. How to Love by Thich Nhat Hanh is a mindfulness practice book about how to love. Unmasked, My Life Solving America's Cold Cases by Paul Holes is a memoir from the detective who found the Golden State Killer and his life of investigating America's toughest cold cases. And then Death at SeaWorld by David Kirby centers on the battle with the multi-million-dollar marine park over the controversial and lethal ramifications of keeping killer whales in captivity. And this one I haven't read yet, but I will finish it by the end of the year. So that is the quick summary of the 72 books that I read this year. And I picked out 9 that I would 100% definitely recommend you all check out, so I will go through those. The first book I recommend would be Project Hail Mary. This was the sci-fi book about the world ending and a crew getting sent to space. I thought this book was amazing. I would recommend it to everyone. I haven't really read much science fiction, so I wasn't really sure what to expect, but honestly, it's not like super science-y that it is hard to understand. It's such a like sad but also moving book. The next book that I definitely recommend would be The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This one gets a lot of hype on Book Talk, BookTube, and I would agree. I thought this was a very fun read with a lot of twists and turns, and I really liked the love story aspect of it. The next book I definitely recommend would be In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. This was that college reunion murder mystery. This book will keep you on the edge of your seat. There are so many twists and turns, and you're going into what happened 10 years ago when this college student gets murdered. Who was the killer? Is it someone in this friend group? What happened 10 years ago? Similarly, I would 100% recommend The First Day of Spring. This book is really fascinating because it jumps between, okay, the child's voice and then to present day as the mother's voice, and just the writing of this book was so well written. When you're in the chapters from the child's point of view, the writing, it just feels like a child. You get transported into this little kid's mindset about what this girl was going through that led to her actions. Next up, I would recommend Home Before Dark. I thought this was a fun mystery thriller book as well. I wasn't really expecting what was going to happen throughout, so I thought it was a fun read and definitely worth checking out if you're into this kind of genre. Next up, I would definitely recommend My Dark Vanessa. This is one that I've just have thought about or have been thinking about throughout the year since I've read it. It's one that I think will just stick with you because of the topics and concepts and themes in this novel, but it really delves into the characters and their motivations and their actions in a really fascinating way. Another really great book would be The Wolf, a true story of survival and obsession in the West. This book is about wolves in the West, their reintroduction to the West, the politics behind wolf reintroduction, and following that one famous wolf throughout her life. So if you're interested in animals, wolves, I would recommend this book. And I was like crying at the end because of what happens to this wolf family. I would also recommend Crying in H Mart. It is a memoir dealing with love, loss, finding yourself after love and loss, sort of after like what I went through this year. I don't think I would be able to read this book. I think now I would not be able to read it. And finally, I would recommend checking out I'm Glad My Mom Died, which is another memoir. I think memoirs and books about true stories are very interesting to get into the author's head about what they're going through in this certain point in their life. And especially for people our age who maybe you grew up watching Nickelodeon, so you know Jeanette from there, I think you should check out her memoir. So yeah, those are my top 9 book recommendations out of the 72 books that I read this year. If you all have any book recommendations for me, please leave a comment down below. I need to start making my TBR list for 2023. And if you've read any of these books that I have read, let me know your thoughts also in the comments below. Did you like them? Did you dislike them? So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully you all enjoyed this video. If you liked it, give it a big thumbs up to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos from me. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday, and I hope you all have a great new year this upcoming week. So this is my last video for 2022, and I will see you all in 2023.